The ship shook hard and grabbed the wall to stay on her feet. Red lights flashed everywhere. The alarm screamed so loud she could barely hear her own thoughts. Through the window, she saw them coming. 3 warships, black and ugly against the stars, moving toward the like wolves closing in on wounded prey. They came out of nowhere, said, his hands flying across the engineering console. Sweat dripped down his face. Our shields are gone. Engines are dead. We have nothing left. Watched the warships get closer. She had seen ships before, years ago when she served in the military. She remembered the reports, the footage of battles lost, colonies burned. They did not come to negotiate. They came to conquer. How many crew? She asked. Her voice was calm, even though her heart beat fast in her chest. 47, answered, all alive for now. Nodded slowly. 47 lives. Scientists, engineers, doctors. They had come to this part of space to study stars, not to fight a war. There was a research ship, not a battleship. They had no weapons, no soldiers, just people who wanted to learn about the universe. The universe, it seemed, had other plans. A loud boom echoed through the ship, then another, then a third. Knew that sound, boarding pods that were coming inside. Everyone to the main hall, she ordered through the ship's communication system. Do not resist. I repeat, do not resist. Looked at her with wide eyes. You want us to surrender just like that? I want us to survive, said. We cannot fight them, not like this, not now. She walked through the halls of and everywhere she looked she saw fear. Young researchers huddled together. Older scientists held each other's hands. A woman named the ship's doctor was trying to comfort a crying technician. They all looked at as she passed, hoping she had answers, hoping she had a plan. She did not have a plan, not yet. The main hall filled quickly. 47 people, all standing close together, all waiting. The ship groaned and shook as the cut through the hull. Stood at the front of the group, her back straight, her face showing nothing. The door exploded inward. They came in like a flood. Soldiers, each one nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick green scales. Their eyes were yellow and cold like the eyes of snakes. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. They moved with perfect discipline, spreading through the hall, surrounding the humans in seconds. No one screamed. No one ran, had told them not to resist, and they listened. They trusted her. She hoped that trust was not a mistake. The soldiers parted and a larger walked through. He was bigger than the others, his scales darker, almost black. Gold marks decorated his face, signs of rank and victories won. He moved slowly, looking at the humans the way a person might look at insects, curious, disgusted, amused. He stopped in front of. His yellow eyes studied her uniform, the old insignia she still wore from her military days. She had never removed it. She did not know why. You were a soldier, he said. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. He spoke the human language poorly, but well enough to be understood. I was, said. And now you lead this ship of scientists. He made a sound that might have been a laugh. Humans are strange creatures. You fight wars, then pretend you want peace. You build weapons, then build telescopes. You are confused. Said nothing. The leaned closer. He smelled like metal and something rotten. I am commander of the Third Fleet. I have killed many humans. I have conquered many worlds. And you? He reached out and touched the insignia on her uniform with one clawed finger. You will help me send a message. He turned and barked orders in his own language. Soldiers moved forward, grabbing humans, pushing them into groups. Watched as her crew was separated. Scientists in one group, engineers in another, medical staff in a third. They were being sorted, organized, like cargo. 2 soldiers grabbed arms and pulled her away from the others. Tried to step forward, but a soldier hit him hard in the stomach. He fell to his knees, gasping. Rushed to help him, but soldiers blocked her path. Do not worry, said 2 as the soldiers dragged her toward the door. Your people will be treated fairly. If they work hard in our mines, they may live many years. he smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. You, however, have a different purpose. Was taken through the halls, then through a cold metal tube that connected to a ship. Then she heard the soldiers call it, flagship, the pride of the Third Fleet. As she walked, she looked at everything. She counted the guards. She noted the turns. She saw a viewport, and through it for just a moment she glimpsed a glowing core deep in the ship's center, the power source, the heart. The soldiers pushed her into a small cell and locked the door. The room was dark and cold. She was alone. Sat on the hard floor and closed her eyes. She thought about her crew. She thought about Smile. She thought about the power core she had seen. They think we are weak, she thought. They think we are broken. She opened her eyes. In the darkness, they burned with something cold and dangerous. They are wrong. Time moved strangely in the cell. There were no windows, no clocks, nothing to mark the hours. Sat in the darkness and waited. She did not sleep. She did not cry. She thought. She thought about she had studied them during her military years. They were a proud species, old and powerful. They believed they were superior to all other life in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds, enslaved millions of beings. Humans were just the latest prey. But they had weaknesses. All creatures did. Their scales were thick, almost impossible to cut. Their bones were dense, hard to break. But there was one spot just under the jaw where the scales did not grow, a small gap no bigger than a finger, the throat, the only soft place on a body. Remembered this from old military reports. She had read them many times. She never thought she would need to use that knowledge. Now she was glad she had paid attention. The cell door opened with a hiss. Light flooded in, hurting her eyes. Two soldiers entered and grabbed her arms. They pulled her up and pushed her into the hallway. "Where are you taking me?" she asked. The soldiers did not answer. They never did. They walked through long corridors, counted steps and turns, building a map in her head. The ship was huge, but she was starting to understand its shape. The power core was somewhere below. The bridge was ahead. The escape pods were on the lower levels, near the cargo holds where her crew was being kept. The soldiers stopped at a large door. It opened and they pushed inside. The room was enormous. The ceiling rose high above, disappearing into shadow. Strange objects lined the walls. Weapons, flags, pieces of armor, trophies. Things taken from species that had defeated. Saw human items among them. A military jacket, a torn flag, a child's toy. She felt sick. Sat on a throne-like chair at the far end of the room. He watched her approach with those cold, yellow eyes. He looked relaxed, comfortable. He was enjoying this. "Do you like my collection?" he asked, gesturing at the trophies. "Each piece tells a story, a victory, a lesson learned." He pointed at the military jacket. That belonged to a human general. He fought hard. He died screaming. Kept her face blank. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her fear. Stood and walked toward her. Each step shook the floor. He stopped close enough that she could feel the heat from his body, smell the rot on his breath. "I have an offer for you," he said. "A simple one. Sign a document of surrender. Admit that your ship and your crew belong to the Empire. Do this and your people will live. They will work in our mines. Hard work, yes, dangerous work, but they will breathe. They will eat. They will exist." He leaned closer. "Refuse, and I will kill them, one by one. I will record their deaths and send the recordings across human space. I will show your species what happens when you resist the—" His hands shook, but she kept them at her sides. "And me, what happens to me?" Smiled. "You will watch. Every death, every scream, every drop of blood, you will see it all. And when the last one falls, I will kill you too, slowly, painfully, as an example." He stepped back and spread his arms wide. "So, what do you choose, surrender or death?" Thought about her crew, 47 people, with his quick hands and clever mind, with her gentle heart. The young researchers who had barely started their careers. They trusted her. They needed her. I need time, she said, time to think. Laughed a deep, rumbling sound. Time. You humans always want more time. Very well, I give you one cycle, 12 of your hours. When the cycle ends, you will give me your answer. He waved his hand, and the soldiers grabbed her again. They dragged her back through the corridors, but not to her original cell. They took her somewhere else, a larger room with a bench and a small window that looked out into space. They threw her inside and locked the door. Sat on the bench and looked out the window. She could see in the distance, dark and broken, her ship, her home for the past 2 years. It floated there like a dead thing. The door opened again, jumped to her feet expecting soldiers. But it was not soldiers, it was. He looked terrible. His face was bruised, his clothes torn, but he was alive. He stumbled into the room and the door closed behind him. Rushed to him, helping him sit on the bench. How are you here? Processing, he gasped. They are sorting the crew, deciding who goes where. I was moved between holding areas. I managed to get put here. He tried to smile. I told them I was sick. They did not want me near the others. Shook her head in wonder. You clever man. Reached down and pulled something from his boot. A small tool, thin and sharp, a micro-welder. I hid this. They did not search carefully. They think we are harmless. Took the tool and held it in her hand. It was small, but it could cut through metal. It could open locks. It could change everything. We have 12 hours, she said, and I have an idea. She told him about the power core, about the escape pods, about the small soft spot under his jaw. She told him everything she had seen, everything she had learned. When she finished, was quiet for a long moment. It is dangerous, he said finally. We could all die. We will die anyway, replied. At least this way we choose how. Looked at her and slowly he nodded. Tell me what to do, he said. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere in the ship was waiting for her answer. He thought he had already won. He thought humans were weak and broken. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The 12 hours passed like water through fingers. Did not sleep. She sat with and they talked in whispers, going over the plan again and again. Every detail mattered. Every second would count. One mistake and they would all die. When the soldiers came, was ready. They grabbed her arms and pulled her from the room, stayed behind, still pretending to be sick. The soldiers did not care about him. He was just another weak human, waiting to be sent to the mines. They did not know that the moment they left, he would use the micro-welder to escape. They did not know he would find the crew and free them. Walked through the corridors with her head high. She counted her steps. She marked the turns. She passed a window and saw the power core glowing deep in the ship's belly. Soon, she thought, very soon. The soldiers took her to the bridge this time, not the trophy room. The bridge was even larger, filled with screens and consoles and officers working at their stations. At the center stood, waiting like a king on his throne. A small drone floated nearby, its red eye blinking. A recording drone. Wanted to capture this moment. He wanted the whole galaxy to see humanity's surrender. Walked to the center of the bridge and stopped. She could feel every eye on her. The officers looked at her with disgust and amusement. To them, she was nothing. A small, soft creature about to bend the knee. You have thought about my offer? Asked. His voice echoed through the bridge. I have, said. And your decision? Looked around the bridge. 6 guards standing at the edges, 4 officers at their consoles, in the center close enough to touch, the drone floating overhead. I will sign, she said. Smile spread wide across his face. A wise choice. Your people will live because of you. They should be grateful. He waved his hand and an officer brought forward the surrender document, could see the words glowing on the screen. By signing this, she would give the everything. The ship, the crew, their freedom, their dignity. But was not finished. He reached into his belt and pulled out something unexpected. An old pen made of metal with a sharp pointed tip. Human design, Earth design. "Do you know what this is?" asked, holding it up to the light. "A pen," said. "Yes, a pen. I took it from a human diplomat many years ago. He tried to negotiate with me, tried to talk about peace and understanding." Laughed. "I killed him with his own guards watching. I kept this as a reminder of how weak your kind truly is." He held out the pen to, "Sign with this. Let your people see their surrender in their own tradition. Let them understand that the old ways cannot save them." Took the pen. It was heavier than she expected. Solid metal cold in her hand. The tip was sharp, almost like a needle. She turned it over, feeling its weight, testing its balance. "A weapon," she thought. "He gave me a weapon and does not even know it." Placed the on a console in front of her. "Sign," he said, "and this will all be over." Looked at the document. She saw her name already written at the top. She saw the words "Unconditional Surrender" in bold letters. She saw the empty line waiting for her signature. She thought about her crew, about who should be freeing them right now, about and all the others trapped in cargo holds waiting for a chance. She thought about every human who had ever been conquered by every world burned, every life destroyed. No more, she thought, it ends here. She leaned forward and began to sign. She wrote slowly, carefully, each letter perfect. She could feel behind her, watching, satisfied. He had won. He was sure of it. Finished the last letter of her name. She straightened up. She took a breath. And then she moved. She spun around, faster than any expected a human to move. The pen in her hand flashed upward. Eyes went wide with surprise, but he was too slow. The pen drove deep into his throat, into that small, soft spot beneath his jaw, the only weakness in his armored body. Screamed, dark blood sprayed from the wound, splattering across the console, across the floor, across face. She pushed the pen deeper, twisting it, feeling it tear through flesh. For a moment everything stopped. The officers stared in shock. The guards froze. The drone continued recording, its red eye capturing everything. Then chaos exploded. Grabbed sidearm from his belt. It was heavy, designed for hands, but she held it with both hands and fired. The first shot hit a guard in the chest. He fell. The second shot hit another guard in the head. He dropped. Officers shouted. Guards charged. Alarms began to scream. Ran for the navigation console. A guard reached for her, but she ducked under his arm and fired into his stomach. He collapsed. She reached the console and began typing, her fingers moving fast, entering the code she had memorized. Power core override. Cascade failure, 15 minutes. A countdown appeared on the screen. Red numbers falling. 15 minutes until the tore itself apart. Behind her was still alive, crawling across the floor, leaving a trail of dark blood. He reached for her with one clawed hand. "You cannot," he gasped. Turned and looked down at him. The pen still stuck out from his throat, moving with each painful breath he took. She reached down and pulled it out. Blood followed, pouring from the wound. "I already did," she said. She ran for the door. The bridge was chaos behind her. Officers screaming orders, guards stumbling over each other, and the countdown continued, falling toward zero. Somewhere in the ship she heard explosions. The crew was fighting back, had done his part. Now she had to do hers. Ran through the corridors of the with blood on her hands and fire in her heart. The alarm screamed all around her, red lights flashing like angry eyes. Soldiers rushed past, confused, shouting orders in their harsh language. They did not notice her at first. They were looking for an army, not a single woman covered in their commander's blood. She turned a corner and nearly ran into two soldiers. They saw her and raised their weapons. She fired first. One fell. The other stumbled backward and she fired again. He collapsed against the wall and did not move. "Keep moving," she told herself. "Do not stop. Do not think, just move." The countdown in her head matched the one on the ship's screens. 14 minutes, 13, 12. Every second brought the closer to destruction. Every second was a gift and a curse. She found a stairway and ran down, her legs burning, her lungs screaming for air. The cargo holds were below. That was where her crew was being kept. That was where she needed to go. 3 floors down, she heard the sounds of fighting, shouting, energy weapons firing, human voices crying out in anger and fear. She pushed herself harder, jumping down the last few steps, nearly falling. The corridor ahead was chaos. Humans fought with soldiers. Her crew, her people, armed with whatever they could find, was there, using a metal pipe as a weapon, swinging it at a soldier twice his size. Was behind him, helping a wounded researcher to his feet. Others grabbed fallen weapons, turning them against their captors. Had done it, he had freed them. He had given them a chance. Raised his weapon and fired into the back of a soldier who was about to strike. The soldier fell and spun around, eyes wide. He shouted, "The escape pods," she yelled back. "Everyone move, we have 10 minutes." The fight shifted. Humans stopped attacking and started running. The confused and leaderless could not organize a proper response. Word was spreading through the ship. Their commander was dying. The human woman had stabbed him on the bridge. Everything was falling apart. Led the way, her stolen weapon clearing the path. More soldiers appeared and more fell. She did not count. She did not think. She just fired and moved, fired and moved. They reached the escape pod bay with 7 minutes left. The pods were small, designed for bodies, but they would fit humans. Barely. "Everyone in," ordered. 3 to a pod, move. The crew rushed forward, climbing into pods, squeezing together. Stood at the entrance, firing at any soldier who tried to follow. Helped the wounded, lifting them, pushing them into pods. "Come on," he shouted. "Not yet," she fired twice more. A soldier dropped. "Get in a pod." "Not without you." Grabs arm. She knows what she is doing, trust her. Hesitated, then climbed into a pod with another researcher. The door closed. Through the small window could see his face, worried and scared. She turned back to the corridor. More soldiers were coming. She could hear their heavy footsteps, their angry shouts. She fired until the weapon clicked empty, then threw it aside. 5 minutes. She ran to the nearest pod and climbed in. It was tight, barely enough room for her body. She pulled the door closed and hit the launch button. The pod shot out into space like a bullet from a gun. Through the small window, watched the shrink behind her. The ship was huge, a dark mountain against the stars, but now it was wounded. Smoke poured from a dozen places. Lights flickered and died. All around her, other pods launched. 47 people, escaping in small metal shells. 47 lives that had tried to take. 4 minutes 3, 2. They began to break apart. It started slowly, then happened all at once. The power core exploded first, a ball of white fire erupting from the ship's center. The explosion tore through the hull, ripping metal like paper. Secondary explosions followed, each one bigger than the last. The ship split in 2, then 4, then 1,000 pieces. Fire and metal scattered across space like seeds from a dying flower. Watched it burn. She thought about dying on his bridge, watching his ship tear itself apart around him. She thought about his trophies, his conquests, his pride. All gone now. All turned to ash and debris. She thought about the pen, still clutched in her bloody hand. The other pods drifted nearby. Through the radio she heard voices, crying, laughing, praying, her people alive, free, saved. His voice crackled through the speaker. "Are you there?" She pressed the communication button. "I am here." "You did it," he said. His voice was shaking. "You actually did it." Looked out at the burning remains of the... Somewhere in that wreckage, a recording drone floated, damaged but functional. It had captured everything. Her signature, her strike, her escape. The whole galaxy would see what happened here. "No," she said quietly. "We did it, all of us." She leaned back in the tiny pod and closed her eyes. Her body hurt. Her hands shook. But for the first time since the ships appeared, she allowed herself to breathe. They were not safe yet. More ships would come. They would need to find rescue, find a way home. The war was not over. But today they had won. Today they had shown the galaxy what humans could do. Today, one woman with a pen had killed a commander and burned his ship to nothing. And that was just the beginning. The escape pods drifted through the cold darkness of space for 3 days before rescue came. A human patrol ship, the Sunlight, picked up their distress signal and found them floating among the debris of the 47 souls, cold and hungry but alive. The captain of the Sunlight, a woman named, could not believe what she saw. Wreckage scattered across thousands of kilometers, escape pods with human survivors inside, and a story that would change everything. Told her what happened, every detail, the capture, the offer, the pen, the strike. She told it calmly, simply, like she was reading from a report, but saw the blood still on her clothes, the exhaustion in her eyes, the small metal pen she refused to let go. "You killed a commander," said slowly, "with a pen." "He gave it to me," replied. "He thought it was funny." The recording from the drone spread faster than anyone expected. It started on military channels, passed from ship to ship, base to base. Officers watched it in war rooms, their faces pale with shock. Then it leaked to civilian networks. Within a week, every human in known space had seen the footage. The video showed everything. Standing tall and proud, offering the pen with a mocking smile, taking it, signing her name slowly. Then the strike, sudden and violent, the pen driving into his throat, the chaos that followed, the escape. But it was face that people remembered most. The moment before she struck, when she looked at with eyes that held no fear, only cold, quiet determination. The face of someone who had decided to fight, no matter the cost. People gave the video a name. They called it the signing. On occupied worlds, humans who had given up hope began to believe again. Resistance cells that had gone quiet for years started to move. Small attacks on supply lines. Sabotage in the mines. Secret messages passed in the dark. That had taught humans to be afraid, now had taught them something else. 3 weeks after the rescue, stood before a council of human military leaders on the planet New Sol. They wanted to hear her story directly. They wanted to understand how one woman had done what entire fleets could not. The room was large and formal, filled with generals and admirals in crisp uniforms. Wore simple clothes, her old military insignia pinned to her chest. She looked small among them, but she stood straight and spoke clearly. "Commander made a mistake," she said. "He thought humans were weak because we do not have scales, because we are small, because we prefer peace to war." She paused, looking at each face in the room. "He forgot that we choose peace. It is not weakness. It is a choice. And when someone takes that choice away, we remember how to fight." An admiral named leaned forward. "You destroyed their flagship. You killed one of their most decorated commanders. Do you understand what you have started?" "I understand," said. "They will come for revenge. They will send more ships, more soldiers. They will try to crush us harder than before." "Then why?" asked. "Why start a war we may not win?" Was quiet for a moment. She thought about her crew, safe now, recovering on the Sunlight. She thought about and all the others who had trusted her in the darkness of the. She thought about's trophy room, filled with pieces of conquered species. "Because we were already in a war," she finally said. "We just were not fighting back." The council talked for hours after she left. They argued and debated and worried about the future. But in the end, they made a decision. The human colonies would unite. They would build ships and train soldiers. They would prepare for the response. And they asked to help lead them. She did not want it. She was a scientist, not a general. She had spent years studying stars, not planning battles. But she remembered the faces of her crew in those cargo holds. She remembered the fear and the hope in their eyes when she told them to run. She could not walk away from that. 1 month later stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Dawn. It was a warship built for combat, armed with weapons that could hurt even vessels. Around her, a fleet gathered. 12 ships, all crewed by humans who had watched the signing and decided to fight. Stood beside her now her chief engineer, worked in the medical bay below. Others from the had joined too, trading their research tools for weapons. "The third fleet is moving toward the outer colonies," reported a young officer named Minu. 30 ships. They will arrive in 6 days. Nodded. 30 ships against 12. Bad numbers, terrible numbers. But she had faced worse odds before. "Set a course to meet them," she ordered. "And send a message to every human colony, every resistance cell, every ship that can fight. Tell them we are not hiding anymore." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the pen. It was clean now, the blood washed away, but she could still feel its weight. The weight of what it meant, the weight of what it had started. "What should the message say?" Minu asked. Looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there they were coming, hungry for revenge. They expected to find frightened humans ready to surrender. They were going to be disappointed. "Tell them," she said slowly, "that humanity remembers how to fight. Tell them we are not afraid. Tell them that for every world they burn, we will burn 10 of theirs. And tell them." She held up the pen, letting the light catch its metal surface. "Tell them we still have the pen." The fleet moved forward into the darkness between stars. Behind them, messages flew across space, reaching colonies and ships and hidden bases. Humans everywhere heard the call. The war had begun. And this time, humanity would not surrender.